Welcome to the Resilient Mindset Podcast, an exciting new podcast by Resilience Queen, Justine Martin. Justine is the owner and founder of the Resilient Mindset, a division of the Justine Martin Corporation. Justine draws on her years of experience and knowledge consulting with clients to develop and sustain a positive mindset. Focused on igniting your passion, purpose and power, follow the Resilience Queen each week as she delves into the mind of her guests, exploring fascinating stories and inspiring journeys.
Welcome back. Today with me I've got Deb Fribbins. Deb has an extensive experience in coaching businesses to grow, develop and thrive. Her knowledge and expertise enables her to assist business owners to achieve their goals. With over 30 years' experience as a national buyer and planner for Myer, David Jones, Target and Harris Scarfe, a business development manager for a jeweller and the accounts manager for a nursing staff agency, all very male-dominated fields. Starting DEB Developing Excellence in Business in 2013, she has supported clients in the UK, USA, Indonesia, China and Australia in retail, wholesale and manufacturing. Mentoring for the Small Business Mentoring Service, SBMS, enables her to keep a pulse countless SMEs throughout Victoria, dealing with all types of businesses. As an entrepreneur, speaker, mentor, coach, author, a champion for equality and social enterprise advocate, her main focus has been and always will be to serve the community. She does this through working with startups and the various charities she's heavily involved in.
With over 11 years public speaking expertise, Justine thrives on delivering a powerful and empowering keynote to audiences of all sizes. From a packed room of 500 people to an intimate gathering of 50 people, Justine will command the room with her inspiring journey and engaging anecdotes. Email hello@justinemartin.com.au to book Justine for your next event.
Welcome, Deb, to the Resilience Mindset Podcast. Great to have you on today.
Thank you, Justine. Thank you for asking me.
You're welcome. So let's get right into it today. What does resilience mean to you?
Resilience to me is something I hadn't actually thought of because it's something that I think I naturally do without putting a lot of thought into it. But it's how you weather the storm, how you choose to live your life and be able to bounce back and not let situations get you right down.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what's an adversity that you've faced and how do you draw on your resilience to cope?
I was thinking about that from when we talked about doing this, and there are lots of different examples. You know, moving across to Victoria on my own with an 8 and a 9-year-old child with no support whatsoever.
Where did you move from, Deb? Where was it?
We moved from Adelaide across to Geelong.
Yep.
I got a job with Target head office, and they did the physical move for us, which was lovely, but there's a lot of issues that arise when you move, and the kids were taken away from their father and family and friends and all the rest of it. So we had trials and tribulations along the way, but you take it in your stride and work on it. And I think what I've done in my business, I run a 5D plan, and my 5D plan is to determine, devise, develop, deliver and dissect. And I think I actually live my life that way because you define what the problems are. What is my vision? So my vision for coming over here, I'd come out of a very
toxic. Toxic.
Very toxic environment.
Yes.
With both my personal family, my mother and father, and more importantly, my ex-husband. So that was a toxic environment we were trying to get out of. So I had a vision of what I wanted that was better for the boys and I. Because I'd come out of a toxic family situation where I was continuously told what a useless lump I was, and then my husband effectively did the same thing. I jokingly say, I went from living with my mother to living with my mother because my husband was very much like my mother.
And
it wasn't until he started doing it to my son that I realised that this is not because I'd had it all my life, I just accepted that's what my lot was. But when he started doing to my innocent son, who was only 4 at the time, how can you treat a 4-year-old that isn't a bad child and doesn't have issues? So it made me sort of stop and think. So I developed my vision. I defined where I wanted to go, what I wanted for my kids.
Yep.
And I then looked at all the things that would affect our family and how we would get it going. So I determined all the parameters. Then I worked on a plan. What were we going to do to make our lives better? What were the things that I needed to do for my kids? They still needed positive male role models, so I got them into scouting and things like that, and Mike into his tennis, which he loved. So you just devise your plans, you work things through, and then you monitor all the way through. Have we made the right decision? Are we heading in the right direction? And you make choices in life. You really, for me, it's about choosing a positive road to get down. And yes, we all have shit happens, but if we can look at ways to turn that, COVID has not been good for anybody. COVID has been horrendous and it's caused all sorts of issues. But there's actually some good stuff that's come out of COVID as well.
Yeah.
People have realised that you can actually work from home. And where employers 12 months ago would say, no, you can't work from home because, you'll do the wrong thing.
It's not feasible, or you're not going to be productive and all of that.
Correct. Many businesses, I worked for one company who blew me away in my most recent role in the corporate world, where every Monday we would have a meeting for an hour to plan the meetings for the week. And then they wonder why you don't get any work done. And suddenly, because we're working from home, you don't actually need to have 15 meetings a day. Just get about and do your work. Empower people to make decisions under the umbrella of the strategy that you set.
Yep.
And it's your choice in life. And if you choose to stuff it up deliberately, then that's your problem. And if you have done it accidentally, then talk to somebody.
Yeah. And that's with everything. That's not just business. That's absolutely everything in life. And
yeah, I used to say to my kids when they were little, if you deliberately break something or do something bad, then I will be very cross with you. But if you have an accident and you drop a cup or, do something, then accidents happen. And these are all sorts of accidents in a form in life. So you really do need to make the choice of how do you fix the problem and how do you make the most of it and what do you learn out of it and move on.
And life is all about adversities. I mean, you can't get through a day without some kind of adversity in your life, and they come in all different shapes and forms. But then there's the big major adversities in your life. And I know how hard it is to move across the country. I've done it 3 times in my life, and each time I've struggled fitting in when you go to a new place, a new environment with new people, and when you don't know anyone else there, it is extremely difficult. And you have a choice. You can stay locked inside your house, which is your sanctuary, or will become your jail quite quickly, or you can put yourself out there and get back into life, which is what you've done.
Correct. Life is worth living, and there is so much good out there. You just look for the good. Jussie, I do a lot of charity work, and you see an enormous amount of adversity in some of the charitable areas that you look at. But again, when you work with positive people, it never ceases to amaze me when you find somebody who's got absolutely nothing and they're still giving.
Yep. And they're the ones that give the most.
Absolutely. I get to be a mum again this afternoon. I haven't seen my son for 2.5 years because of COVID, and he's coming home. And I promise you, if you needed $5 to do something and James didn't have a cracker, he would go and find somehow he would earn $5 to give to you.
But then that's a reflection back on you, Deb, and the way that you've brought your children up. So well done to you.
Yeah. And I just think that's beautiful that, that's just his nature.
Yeah. I bet you're excited for this afternoon.
I am very excited for this afternoon. I'm like a kid in a toy shop at the moment.
And the house will all be pristine and everything will be all clean and ready and washed. Because this is the first time you've seen your new house. So
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't seen
So the house has been cleaned to within an inch of its life, except I still haven't washed the floor.
That'll happen
That's
just
the last
before, listeners, that knowing Deb, that'll happen just before he walks in the door, so it's all pristine and clean.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what other adversities have you faced in your life, and what coping mechanisms have you used?
I guess the biggest adversity was obviously the abuse in my marriage. My husband was mentally abusive. He was an expert at gaslighting, absolute expert, but he also was very physical when he had too much to drink. And I put up with that. I can remember one night, it was towards Christmas time. James was born in the July, so he was 5 months old, and I was feeding him, and Kevin rang me up. They'd all been to Christmas lunch with work, which is fine, but he rang me up and screaming at me on the phone that I had to come right now this minute and pick him up from the pub because he wanted to go home. And the pub was like a half an hour away. And I said, I can't because I'm feeding at the moment. He went absolutely troppo, said, well, I'm going to start walking and you need to pick me up. No idea how he was walking. Like, as I said, it's a half an hour drive away, so there were one of 50 roads that he could have gone down. I eventually found him about 2 hours later with a child screaming in the back seat. He screams at the child when he gets in the car because the child's screaming. And when we got home, I got a belting because I wasn't there to pick him up the second that he wanted it. Well, it doesn't work like that in life. And you can, I should have got out earlier than I did, but like most women, you think, when they're not drunk, everything is wonderful and, I won't do it again, darling, and everything's fine. And it doesn't happen. A leopard doesn't change its spots.
No.
So you choose to live with it, in which case I say shut up and put up with it. That's your choice in life. But otherwise, get out and find the way to get out. I was very lucky compared to a lot of women because I had a good job. Which paid reasonable money. So I was able to...
So we're going back how many years ago now, Deb?
35.
So the support systems weren't in place in the community of when you faced the domestic violence that you did, and then, leaving, as you did with two young boys and moving to another state. You should pat yourself on the back because that's a huge effort of what you've done.
Well, my mother kept saying you've made your bed, lie in it.
Yeah.
In other words, you're married, stay there. You can't, don't embarrass me by divorcing your husband because that reflects on me because it makes me look bad if one of my children get.
And it's funny that you said that you married your mother because that's what happens is that, and I know like in my upbringing, I associate trauma with love because that was the way that my mum loved me, was through a traumatic relationship. She was narcissistic and that made it extremely difficult as a daughter of a narcissistic mother. And the patterns of behaviour that she showed to me as growing up are the patterns of behaviour of previous partners that I've always chosen. And it's not until you break that pattern, you recognise that there's a pattern there, and then you break it, that life will move forward in a different direction.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's 4 types of 4 areas that you need to have resilience. There's not only the physical and the mental and obviously the emotional, but the social as well. And as you're saying with the move situation, the social is just as important as all of the others to help you to get through. You don't want to sit down and lie in a ball and cry all day long because nobody's going to come and support you if you don't have a good social network around you and they don't even know.
When I moved from far north New South Wales over to Perth, Pete would go to work, the kids would go to school, and I didn't know anyone. And so I'd just go and window shop at the local big shopping centre, and I'd go in there and, chat to the sales assistants. And I actually made some friends that way by chatting to the sales assistant, who I'm still friends with today. And that really helped just to talk. And I know when we were going through COVID and lockdowns that, some people who lived alone, and you lived alone like I did, The only time that you actually got to see someone face to face and talk to someone face to face was when you went and paid for your groceries.
Correct.
Or the chemist, or the doctors.
Yeah.
So, we are social people, and that adversity of moving towns or moving states or moving countries is a huge adversity to face. But the quicker you can get yourself back into society and making friends and connections, social connections, you'll bounce back a lot quicker, and therefore having that resilience.
Yeah. And I think it's knowing what you're on about, what your personal needs are, what are your skill sets. Are you aware of what's happening around you and what people are doing to you? Have you got flexibility? Are you able to move with what's happening? I don't mean accepting the adversity, but I mean making the changes that you need to do to make sure that you're not in that sort of situation. And you need to let go of some things. It's very hard to fall back into that rut. My ex-husband and I actually went to counselling for a short time, and, things went along okay, better than they had been for about 6 months. And then we were right back to where we were. And when we spoke to the counsellor again, he said, well, it's your own fault because you were both, we both allowed our previous pattern to fall back into what was happening, and that's not what you want. And neither of us were positive. We were too busy trying to knock the other one down, and rather than build each other up, which is what you would normally do with your kids and anybody else. Oh, my husband or my wife or my kids are wonderful, and look how great they are, and look what they've achieved. We spent our entire time knocking each other off our pedestals to make sure. Kevin used to get so angry and physical every July when our group certificates came out, because if I won cent more than him, he would go choco.
That's just ridiculous.
I don't understand that mentality to this day.
No.
He wanted to go and he was a radio tech, and he wanted to do engineering. And I offered, because I was on a wage that we could have afforded to live on, because it was similar to his, so it worked both ways. And I said, well, go back and do engineering, because long term you can make a lot more money and we can be a lot better off when I do give up work to have children. Would not happen. He would not be a kept man, even for a better result down the track. So, you make your choices in life.
Oh, you do, and life is all about making choices. I mean, you can choose to stay in bed and hide from the world, or you can choose to put your feet on the ground and have either a good day or a bad day, because, again, that's your choice. And every adversity that you face, you can choose whether on how much it's going to affect you and for how long it's going to affect you. And
I worked in a very male-dominated field. When I first started out with Myer, when I became a buyer, I did my training with them. They had a proper in-house training program in those days, and I became a buyer at age 20. I don't think I was 21. I might have been just 21. Anyway, we went through, but when we had buyers' meetings, there would have been 80 people in the room, and there were probably 4 or 5 of us that were female.
Yeah.
The rest were all men. And when I was appointed the buyer of intimate apparel, corsetry and underwear, intimate apparel, then I actually got sent to Melbourne to Hickory, who were the biggest manufacturers in those days, and I was sent to Hickory, and I found out years later that the reason I was sent to them was not to do what I thought I was doing and look at the range and go through. I spent 2 full days with this one company and had lunch in the boardroom so that they could chat to me, blah, blah, and then they reported back whether I was good enough to be allowed to do the job that I did.
Because you were female.
When I went, every year in those days, you had to go up in the October to ask for a pay rise or a bonus or whatever it was. And I can distinctly remember walking in. I would have been 22 or 3 at the time, 22, I think. And Mr. Dawson was the managing director, and he said, now, Deb, blah, 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 blah. And I'd made a huge bonus, a huge increase in sales and profit for the company. So I had a bonus, but they wouldn't give me a salary increase. And I said, no. I want a salary increase, because your bonus and your salary increase is increased on your increase each year. And if you're going to hold my salary, I'm never going to be that much better off. And he said, well, why should I do that? You won't be here in 12 months. You're a woman. You're going to get pregnant and you'll leave. that sort of behaviour was quite acceptable 40 years ago. And I said, I will bet you $500, some ridiculous amount. I said, I will bet you that I am still here in 5 years' time, and I'll guarantee you that the buying director who was sitting in the next office, we'd only been there 12 months, I said, I'll guarantee you that he's not here. Because men always used to do the 3-year term. And I used to jokingly say they'd take a year to learn the ropes, a year to stuff it up, and a year to get out before people found out how much damage they'd done.
You're probably right, Deb. You're probably right, Deb.
Mr. Clark, who was in the office next door, the buying director, left after 3 years, and I was still there. And Dawson never, ever went to people's farewells when people left the company. I mean, you imagine how many he'd have to do if he did.
Yeah.
But he came down for mine, and he said, and it was a week short of 5 years when I left to have James. And he came down and he said, this woman can't be trusted. She lied to me 5 years ago, blah, 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 blah. And it was all tongue-in-cheek because he said she actually said she would be here 5 years and you're a week short, Deb. But and he gave me a beautiful present, I have to say, with a little tiny gold booty because the girls gave me a charm bracelet.
Yeah.
So he gave me a little booty with a ruby in it, which is my birthstone. So that was really lovely of him. But people didn't say, but women, I mean, for him to say to a woman today, I'm not going to promote you because you're only going to get pregnant and leave.
It'd be the biggest uproar now. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that was standard. And, of course, when I left to have the children, there was no maternity leave. There was none of that sort of stuff. And they just brought in that they wouldn't do, what do you call them, references. Because as a company, if I gave you a reference for Mary Jane to come and work for you and she didn't work out with you, you could sue me because Mary Jane wasn't right. And sometimes it's a personality thing. It's not their physical work that they can't do. It's just a personality that the person just doesn't work out in that role. But, you know, our wages were considerably lower. They were about 70% of what the boys were getting all the way through. And
there are adversities in their own right. So
absolutely. But, you know, you make it. And when I was offered the job over here, I mean, that was a huge ask. And I had to sit down and I went through the 5 days. Okay, my vision is to work for a multi-state company.
Yep.
Because I knew, the wages would be more, the conditions would be more, and the progression would be better.
Yep.
So there was more future with one of the bigger companies. So that was a goal. But what were all the downsides, and what am I going to do about turning those any adversities that may come up, turning them into positives and nipping it in the bud before it even started? And both my boys, in very different ways, do the same thing. Michael he's a vice president of whatever it is with his company, and he, he's always handling adversity in lots of ways because he does all the energy sustainability.
Okay. Yep.
Very great. So he's doing all that. So there's a lot of adversity in that. My other son was a tour guide operator and is going back into tour guiding. And as you can imagine, you've got people
huge.
On tour that, but they take it in their stride because they know that that's part of life.
Yep.
So you find out what the problem is, define your vision, determine all the things that make it work or not work, then devise the plans that are going to make it achieve the result that's wanted down the track.
Yeah.
It's.
And you can apply that to.
I've never actually thought of diversity as resilience as being.
Well, that is gaining resilience on it all, and they're good coping mechanisms there for it. So, Deb, next question for you: who are your role models in resilience, and how do they inspire you?
I am very work-focused because money was important, because I needed to raise my children and do the right thing by them, and that sort of stuck with me. So mine are actually people like Richard Branson and Roger James Hamilton.
Yep.
Both those guys lost their businesses several times before they actually made it and are now multi-millionaires and
billionaires.
Incredibly successful. I love their work ethics now, but they understand what goes on and how hard it can be, because they've certainly needed to have resilience themselves to get to where they are now. And from what I've seen of both of those people, I've never had the privilege of meeting Richard Branson face-to-face, but I certainly have with Roger James Hamilton. And when you listen to him and his vision of where things are going, he in my terms, he does my 5D process with everything he does.
Yeah.
And when he talks to you, he said, okay, if that's what you want, firstly, what do you want? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do about it? What if this happens? What if that happens? So he's always looking for resilient ways of making the business work, which he didn't do in his early days, which is why he went broke the first twice.
So is he on your bucket list to meet?
Sorry?
Is Richard Branson on your bucket list to meet one day?
To meet? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's gorgeous. I know there's a lot of people that don't like some of his big decisions, big company decisions that have been made, but, he's running a business.
Yeah.
It's just that the numbers are bigger because he's a bigger business. I still think he's got a wonderful mind, and he does a huge amount of charity. If you look locally, one of the people that I admire greatly is Keith Fagg.
Yep.
Keith is so the Fagg family are, but we know Keith because he's in our Rotary Club with us, and he is so generous with everybody. But he had a terrible time while he was in council, trying desperately to do the right thing by Geelong. His vision for Geelong was very clear in taking us to where we needed to be and putting us on the map. And he started a lot of things which Darren Lyons ended up finishing off and doing more, not taking from Darren Lyons. But he was under huge
pressure,
adversity, because the other councillors around him hadn't been challenged in the past. And, they'd always done this for themselves without looking at the bigger picture. And Keith had a grander vision for Geelong. So he really was treated very badly and needed an enormous amount of resilience. And he's just the most wonderful man. Never, ever, even when he was going through that, heard him say a negative word.
That's amazing.
Look for the positives in life and stick with as much as you can with the positivity.
So let's talk about Deb. And not you, Deb, but Deb, your business, Deb. Let's talk for a couple of moments on what you actually do.
Developing excellence in business does what it says it's going to do. It tries to develop excellence in your business. So I work with people and do the 5D process with them. We talk about what their vision is. Where do they want to take the company? Not what are you doing now, but what's your vision? Where do you want to be in 1, 3, 5 years, 10 years' time? We then look at all the issues that affect your business, competition, logistics, pick up every single aspect of the business that has an impact on your business, then devise plans that fix all of those. And you need to have that little bit of flexibility in there, but you need to understand. And I'm a great believer that if you get down to the grassroots, then you can build on something. If you're going to start at the top, and so many people I meet who start a business and say, I bought a shop and I bought a whole lot of stock and I put it in there and people are going to come and buy it. But they haven't put any planning into the assortment plan or the ranging that they're going to do, how they're going to attract the appropriate customer, who is the customer that they're actually trying. They don't even know who their customers are that are going to buy the products that, they bought, in some cases, too many people.
Or not enough.
Yeah, they don't buy the right quantities, they don't buy the right quality, and a lot of people will go in and buy what they think is lovely. And one of the first rules as a buyer for the majors, I never, ever, ever would buy something that I really loved. If it was something that I thought was perfect, I'd buy one for me to bring it home, but I would never put it in, because we get to see, when we travel the world like I did, you get to see different products in situ.
Yep.
And when you bring them back to Australia, they don't look the same.
No.
They don't fit the same way. So unless you adapt them to Australian ways and Australian, we'd go in apparel areas, we would go to America for colours, particularly in Los Angeles when I was doing kids wear. You would then go to England for shape, and then you would go to Paris for fabrics.
Yep.
And then you go into Hong Kong and you say, okay, I want that neck with those sleeves in those colours with that fabric, and put it together and come up with your own version of that would work. Because, of course, you would never copy anything because that's completely illegal.
Yes, as someone needs to tell them nowadays about that with all those knockoff websites that you buy stuff and when you get it, it comes up to your knees instead of your ankles. And
correct. I don't know how they get away with what they do, and nobody says anything, but some of the false advertising. One of the things I'm very grateful for Target for is that they had a very strong legal department. And if you had a problem, Carol Harrison was very approachable, and you'd go up and see Carol and say, this is what we've seen. I can remember once bringing a pillow back from America, which I did specially for Carol, and the packaging said, guaranteed to take 10 years off your life every night you sleep on it. So I took it up to Carol and said, look, we should be doing these. You can be minus 20 by the time the end of the week.
Oh, my gosh.
Carol, she just looked at me and said, you're not really contemplating this, are you, Debbie? I said, no, darling, I'm not. It's fine. But the American marketing is
different to what our
Australian terms is illegal.
Yeah.
There's so many things. And I do say to people, you need to look at the American market to look at trends as you would Europe and England and wherever else. So you need to search the world to see what the trends are.
Yeah.
But be really careful with how you put it together.
Yeah.
And what comments you make about it, because Australian laws are much stricter than overseas, and Australians' fit is very different to overseas. So you can't just get Levi jeans, classic example, Levi jeans do not sell in Australia. Women's. Levi men's, huge market.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Used to be number one jean by a long way, but would never, every time they'd bring their women's jeans out, which are big in America, couldn't sell them in Australia because their cut was completely wrong to the Australian market.
Yeah.
Americans are obsessed with a big booty because American white women don't have backsides. And that's why they're always jealous and they have implants and whatever. Australian women, unfortunately, we've all got rear portions. So to get a pair
of got bigger rear portions than others. Hello.
Correct. But to get a pair of Levi jeans to fit your backside,
I can't wear
the waist would be 3 inches out from your waist. And if you get them to fit your waist, there's no way you get it over your hips across your rump because the fit is completely different for
I'm hearing
the
you.
Australian market.
Yeah.
But
so
anyway,
what are some of your passions in life, Deb?
helping other people, basically. That's my one big passion. Whether it's at work, I love helping people in their businesses. I love helping startups so that they have, because so many people, you don't know what you don't know. So I love to try and help startups. And as I said before, I do a lot of charity work, which I love because, again, that's helping people as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah, and we sit on a committee together. So for the Geelong Art Show next year, that we're raising funds for a charity there. Okay, so I believe that you have an offer for the listeners today.
I do indeed. If I can help you in your business, I would love to talk to you. I normally would do a 45-minute free session and then you pay from there, but I'm offering 3 free sessions for anybody that would like to just mention Justine's name. You come from the Resilience Queen, and I'd love to give you 3 free sessions and talk through what your issues are, how we can help you to grow your business and keep your trams on track.
Awesome. I might need to take you up on that, Deb. She who runs 5 businesses might need to take you up.
Yes. I did that 10 years ago when I had the 2 BIH franchises and 2 others. No, not anymore.
No.
I do that. Charity and my work is enough because I want to put the time into my clients.
Yes. And you like to travel, and now the world's opening back up. You can go travel once again.
To do that. Hopefully I'll get to go to America again in the not too distant future. I have one son living over there, and the son that's coming over this weekend, which I only found out 4 days ago, it's his big birthday this year. So I'm still hoping to go over.
So is that the big 30 this year?
30 would be good, but no, add 10.
40.
Yes.
I always forget you're a bit older than me.
I can't believe that I've got a nearly 40-year-old. I just, no.
It's all right. I've
And
got
by
nearly a
Christmas next year,
30-year-old.
I'll have 2 40-year-olds.
See, there's adversity in itself. Okay, I've got some quirky questions for you, Deb. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
Yay, I knew we were friends for a reason. Tea, coffee, hot chocolate, or wine?
Oh, that's a hard choice between tea and wine. Depends on what mood I'm in.
Well, if Juzzy's coming to visit you, it's a wine mood.
It's a wine.
I don't think we've ever sat down for a cup of tea. Yes, it's champagne.
When we got together in the morning, it's a cup of tea. But afternoon, evening, definitely a wine.
Yes. What's your favourite type of music?
Basically anything except headbanging music.
Okay.
I love jazz. I love some of the popular stuff. I love artists like Adele,
Cool.
Nora Jones.
What's your favourite food?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I love Chinese food, but not in Australia. Australians don't make Chinese food like proper Chinese food, and I've been lucky to have been to China that often. That proper Chinese food is beautiful, not like the rubbish they serve here. Mostly anything except really spicy foods. I'm picky with Indian food. I like it, so long as it's not hot.
Okay, so my last question, does the toilet paper go forwards or backwards?
Backwards.
Oh my God, listeners, if you've been following me for this series of podcasts, you'll know that I'm a forwards girl. And I think Deb's you're about the third one that has ever said backwards. My
Definitely
gosh.
down the back.
Oh my gosh. I know Deb will know when I go to her place, guys, because I'll be turning the toilet paper around. How can you fold the nice little triangle in it if it goes down the back?
I don't fold the little triangle. I don't handle the toilet paper. Because that one gets pulled off and put straight in the loo so that you can get
the rest.
I don't want to use a piece that you've been handling.
Okay. So, Deb, how can people contact you?
I sent you through my Facebook and my Instagram and all of those sorts of things. My website has a contact me page, so go into Developing Excellence in Business and contact me through that or give me a buzz.
Cool. And we'll put all the links in the bio for listeners. So, Deb, thank you very much for your time today. It's been wonderful having you on.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It's been great.
You're welcome. So, remember, listeners, you can find all Deb's details in the bio that I'll put up, and it's well worth the opportunity to have 3 sessions with Deb if you are a business owner and you're looking to take it to the next level. I can highly recommend Deb's courses. I've done quite a few of them myself over the last couple of years. So until next time, I hope everyone stays resilient.
Building resilience is a key life skill, a skill everyone needs to work at consistently. Life can throw us curveballs, from sickness to job loss, death and no purpose. But it's our inner strength to get back up, navigate the journey of change and build ourselves back up. If you'd like a free 30-minute one-on-one conversation with resilience coach Justine Martin, email yes please to hello@justinemartin.com.au. We hope you enjoyed the Resilience Mindset podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast to get your weekly fix listening to Resilience Queen Justine Martin. Follow Justine on social media at Resilience Mindset or log on to justinemartin.com.au. And until next time, remember, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient.